Good morning. Happy Friday. I have Neuro Coffee in hand and it is perfect. Okay. This is a busy weekend. It's a work weekend on the 2-week sprint, so we'll be very busy. So let's dig straight into today's Q&A. This is with Zach. Zach was on the Coffee and Coaches conference call yesterday, brought a great case to the call in regards to a weightlifter with right shoulder pain. The cool thing about this, it will be very relatable for those of you that do not do table tests, but still need to be able to understand how movement exists based on shape change, based on spaces where we do access ranges of motion. So for instance, if I was working with somebody that had a great deal of anterior compressive strategy, we know that that takes our external rotation space that we can normally access in front of us and it moves it away from midline. That's exactly what was happening with this weightlifter as she described some of the symptoms that she would get during some of her lifts. So this is why we do this subjective information or the subjective examination with our patients, is because a lot of the information that they give us tells us a great deal about how we need to look at these relationships. Like, so for instance, if somebody off the street comes in and says, hey, I got right shoulder pain, hurts when I lay on that side. What that means is they can't change shape enough to lay on that side, because usually what you would get is you would get anterior posterior expansion when you lay on your side. But if you don't, then you're laying right on a point. And so that's why people get uncomfortable in their hip or on their shoulder when they're laying on their side. So little pieces of information like that are valuable to us to help us guide our process. So again, you won't need table tests. If you pay attention, if you understand spaces, and if you can get rid of the straight plane thinking that we're all brought up on. So Zach, a very useful question. Thank you for bringing this case. It's going to help a lot of people. If you would like to participate in a 15-minute consultation, please go to askbillhartman@gmail.com, askbillhartman@gmail.com. Put 15-minute consultation in the subject line so I don't delete it, and we will arrange that at our mutual convenience. Everybody have an outstanding Friday, an outstanding weekend. Podcast will be up on Sunday. Don't forget to go to the YouTube channel and subscribe so you get all the videos, and I will see you next week.
One of our strength coaches at work just kind of stopped in for me to look at her shoulder, because it was bothering her with some of her overhead lifts, Olympic lifting. It's her right shoulder. So what she said, two things that kind of like stood out to me that I thought were interesting. So she was doing like a split jerk from the front rack position, that's when it really hurts her if she goes overhead. But if she starts from behind her neck and pushes, she doesn't feel any pain. And then the other thing she said was if she throws the right leg forward, it's from assuming it's her front rack position, so she's going to have pain. When the right leg goes forward, it doesn't really bother her as much. But if the left leg goes forward,
she just diagnosed it for you, boss. That's awesome.
So I did a quick chessboard on her, and she has 20 degrees of shoulder flexion, which might be part of her issue. I was trying to work through
it might be.
I was trying to work through the thought process of those two things she was saying. I just wanted to
awesome. Okay, so let's work through the thought process. Talk me through it. What's going on?
So for the front rack versus behind the neck, is that just she's starting from a relatively more IR position, so she runs out of room sooner?
Which one are you saying is more IR? Just to be clear.
Front rack requires more IR than being behind the neck. So the end position would be the same. But if she flares the right elbow out a little bit more. So it just seems like she's looking for ER to move from.
Okay, there you go. That last statement is where your money is, right there.
Okay. Is it just that the behind the neck doesn't require it allows her more ER?
Yes.
To start from?
She's starting from a more okay. So let's use the split jerk. Okay. Table test, real quick. What's your confirmation for hip orientation if you're running table test on the right hip? So you're measuring right hip. What's your confirmations to let you know where your right hip is oriented? Simple question.
I'm not sure I understand where you're going with that.
Okay, so when somebody comes in with right hip stuff and they go, Zach, I got a right hip thing, and you go, well, let me measure right hip stuff. And so you measure the right hip stuff and then you stop right there and you don't measure anything else, right?
Would it be the external rotation measure?
I'm not saying which measure it is. I just want to know what you're using as a confirmation for your hip measures to make sure that your thought process is useful?
Yeah, the two that I find most useful are the external rotation and straight leg raise.
Okay. Does anybody want to dive in here and think in the same way that I am, that you would use to confirm a hip orientation? What would you use? Does anybody know?
Shoulder.
Huh? So who said it?
Shoulder.
Yes. Shoulder on the same side. Okay. So here's what she told you, literally in her explanation. She goes, Zach, every time I try to move my arm through space, as I elevate it, I run out of space and I hit this spot every time, unless I deviate away from midline and orient into farther into ER, and then I'm fine. That's what she said about her shoulder, right? And then she said, by the way, just to confirm that I have to move away from midline when I go right leg forward on my split jerk, it doesn't hurt as bad either. So she said the hip and the shoulder are doing the same thing.
So the right leg forward just essentially makes it easier for her to turn her whole body away from that side.
So think about, okay, so she's moving the lead leg into an early representation of propulsion. That's what a split jerk is going to take the lead leg into early to capture the position. Do you understand that? It's like a step forward. It's just a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but when you step forward, which way is the sacrum facing?
If right leg's forward, it would be facing left.
Perfect. So which way is dorsal rostral facing?
Left.
There you go. So here's her safe spot. So she goes, if I push from here, I'm okay. If I push from here, I don't have any more space, Zach. So she says, I push from out here, I feel okay. I'm going to do a split jerk, and there's my orientation when I do my split jerk. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
So she literally gave you the diagnosis of her table test and in her description of what's going on. Do you understand?
That was very nice of her.
It was very nice of her. She's very aware. You should commend her for being on point.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but let's not stop here. So by tradition, so I have not measured this person, but I can tell you what her measures are going to be, right? And then you already know what they are. So where do you have to go here? What do you have to be in simplest representation? Like, you don't have to take me through like the entire process. What is the greatest limiting factor right now that if you don't address, you're toast? Like, you're not going to get anywhere.
From just like a specific range of motion standpoint?
Like, what do you have to reacquire?
External rotation.
Okay, where?
Start posterior lower on the right
Okay.
side.
On where?
She's a wide ISA.
Okay. I kind of figured that's what was going to be the case, but what you said, posterior lower where?
Right side, like in the thorax.
That is, as a simplest explanation, that is the correct answer. Okay. It is rare that there would be one, but that is she's telling you what she can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was cool.
All right. Awesome.